Absolutely awesome. There we go. Every time. There's a little bit of a
We're
delay.
here.
I'm like, what are we doing? So today was pretty interesting. Hi there, everybody on
Hey,
Facebook in the
everybody.
group. Today we were following up from what we did last week, which was all about focus, managing our time, and being able to get more out of every single bit of energy and time that we've got, which was really, really, really good. And then what do we do today then, Kristie? What do we
So
cover off?
today was such a beautiful process that we went through, focusing on how we can manifest the life that we want, or our desires, or our needs, and breaking it down into this beautiful, tangible, bite-sizable process. Because what we noticed today is that half the time we don't even know what we want,
Yeah.
and then we think we can manifest things without really having the clarity around that. And when you look at it like that, it makes perfect sense that we then find ourselves, years down the track, not having what we thought, well, where we would be. So
Yeah,
yeah.
we went through exactly that process with one of the guys where, the questions were coming up, oh, what about this and what about that? And of course, if you don't make a decision, even if it's, rightly or wrongly, it's just going to give you the heading, at least you know where you're going. Then you're not going to go anywhere, and it's going to feel like you're just sort of a little bit this way, a little bit that way, and never really,
Mm,
really driving that outcome to happen. It's just really setting a direction. Like having the clarity is just going, well, I'm heading in that direction, and how that changes and evolve over time will change and evolve over time.
yeah.
So that was a really, really interesting point. I reckon the biggest takeout for me was how it's really easy for people to visualize what they want. They think about it all the time, right? And the
Yep.
risk with that is that we then start to just see the gap between where we are and where we want to get to, and we sort of covered that as well. But it's how to connect the feelings associated with that thing so that we begin to vibe on that plane,
Mm,
so that we actually begin to attract the things that we want. And I think that was probably the biggest challenge for most, or where the biggest gap is, because I think most people, we've got fairly vivid imaginations. There's a lot of television and all kinds of great special effects that go on in the world, so we can think up a lot of pretty
mm,
imaginative stuff. But that then connecting that with us,
mm.
that I
So
think
big.
is where most people probably find the greatest challenge, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And what we sort of uncovered today is just how strong our walls can be around what we actually want. Um, I think one thing that often happens is I can sort of feel like we're on that treadmill of life, and we're just doing the do, and things pop up. We're human. We sometimes are going awesome and sometimes not so awesome. But in terms of looking towards manifesting exactly what we want, we're not really allowing that time to get in that stillness or that space that allows us to figure out what we actually want, so we can get really specific. So I think we talked about like the environment today and how noisy it can be, and we need to really make that time for ourselves to figure out exactly what we want so we can manifest and set those intentions. And I think when we're on that treadmill, we just build that wall bigger and bigger and bigger, because we're just so consumed with all the overwhelm that it's too hard to sit down and work out what we want. But really, we've got to do that to, yeah. So it's just finding that space, I think.
It's the old sharpening the saw analogy, You got to sharpen the
Yeah,
saw. Those of
it's
you
such
who
a
know
vicious cycle,
know what I'm
isn't it?
talking
Though
about. Sorry?
it's such a vicious cycle, isn't it?
There's only one
Mm,
person who can break it, you know?
yep.
And the moment we get to know that, then the better off we are. So that I thought was, yeah, you could see the challenge associated with it. But remember, we kind of finished off with sort of coming to the fact that in order for us to, like any habit, I suppose, in order for us to change anything, we've just got to make the start. And that's often the biggest challenge, is just getting started. But the repetition of doing it. So we
Yeah.
challenged everyone with, what they created today is to do their just the next 7 days, just do it every day, even if it's for a minimum of 10 minutes, so that we begin to create that repetition. And of course, repetition then starts to create some things in our brain to create freeways of information associated with what it is that we're visualizing and want to bring into our physical space. And it makes it easier over time, if those walls are there, to begin to at least have the feelings associated with doing it. But if we don't do anything, of course, well, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And then it's working out like, well, but how do I change? And I think that's where the tools in Secret Source and what we cover and that community, vibe, where we just sort of collectively working out solutions.
Yeah.
It's where like it's quite powerful, because sometimes we're so busy in our heads and it swirls around. And I've often used the analogy of like an alphabet soup, like it's just, and it's really hard to get out of that yourself. So sometimes we do need to lower those walls and reach out and talk about it, be vulnerable and things like that, so that we can actually start working out tangible steps that are achievable realistically on a daily basis. And like you said, that repetition is huge. So,
well, that's when we can start to see that even though the result isn't here yet, it's happening. It's what happens today that actually leads to that outcome. That outcome can't occur unless I do what I'm doing right now, unless I am where I am right now, moving towards it. And getting to the point of just realizing that even though it doesn't exist yet, I'm not focused on the gap. I'm focused on where I have the power, which is in the now, to lead to that outcome. And again, consistency is the key to that, of course, as we uncovered as well. Yeah, it was cool. I enjoyed it.
It was good. I love the part where we could just be accepting of our humanness. Like, what we covered a couple of weeks ago with self-forgiveness. Like, we talk about it being the key, but when we're stuck in that moment in our life of our humanness, then sometimes we forget that, that there's those feelings of shame or embarrassment or not enough are coming up. But we've got to just keep building those toolboxes that, that help us to deal with those things that come up, those hurdles, because they're just going to be there.
Well, Emma just commented on, hi Em, by the way, and everybody else.
Hey.
She just commented, she makes a really good point. And I was just going back through some of the old videos as well, but, how do I get there faster? I remember I asked that question today. How do I get there faster? I know what I want to do. I know I know what I want life to be like, but how do I get there faster? And immediately you go, well, who can help me with this? That's just where my brain goes. And Emma's just made a great point. It's very powerful. It's hard on your own. Secret Source is where it's at. Thank you, Emma. That's lovely of you.
Yeah, it is hard. It is.
But it is.
It is hard on your own until you find yourself being able to be vulnerable, to share the struggles. And
got to find that tribe.
Whatever we
resist, of your tribe.
Because what resists persists, right? The good old Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it was around before that, but I know that's where I learned that concept.
That's it. So bang on. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you for that, guys. Well, look, I think that's pretty decent recap of what we covered.
I think so. What was your favourite part?
I mean, I probably really enjoyed, creating that process, but more the conversations that we had as we got everyone to build their own visualization process, because I think every time we hear from one of the tribe, everybody takes something from that, and everybody was contributing today in different ways, and even though it may not be exactly applicable to them, I think it's the sharing of that information, or how this now applies to me, gives people a new perspective that they may not just get from you and I facilitating. It comes through the discussion and the discovery that everybody else is going through. So that was really good. But also, probably that one aspect that everything is a process. Getting up and having a shower and brushing your teeth, that's just a process for getting ready for your day, right? That's a micro process. But over the course of a year, building a business is a whole other process with a million different processes in between it. And if we just accept that we're all on the journey, we are all processing, if we just can accept that, and that's the greatest challenge for most, because acceptance of that means that whatever you want, whatever you set your mind to, is now happening. You've created it first, and now you're going to create it here physically as a second. It's now on its way.
Yeah.
But because it's not immediate, people have challenges with that and understanding that and accepting that. So like we discovered, they start reaching for stuff as if it's not there. They start reaching for it and in desperation rather than getting right, so that things start to come.
Absolutely.
So that's probably a bit longer of an answer to your question than you were asking, but
no, it's awesome because it's just what we've gone through and it's fresh, and when we're seeing those transformations and those realizations, it's powerful for them, but so powerful for us as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's fun to facilitate.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably us, I'd imagine, for today. But we'll just call out for this group. We will have another event coming up. We kind of teased that out a little bit ago, but we've been working hard at pulling together some resources. So we'll be sharing a little bit more detail about that coming up as well. Anything else that you wanted to add there, Kristie?
No, I think we've covered it all. I could definitely keep talking because that session, I was just thinking, the internal conflict and things, but no, we've covered enough. I think, that beautiful process of breaking it down, spending that time, just breaking down what we actually want. And I think my favorite part, I'll just add actually, was helping people to see the part where if they've got mixed feelings as to what they want, then you kind of get what you want and you kind of don't. So because that's the vibe that you're putting there, and it's a reminder even for me and for all of us that getting specific is really important.
Because you can't say it doesn't work when you kind of do stuff, which is what a lot of people do, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, awesome. No, it was great.
Sweet as. All right, we'll wrap it up there. As always, pleasure, and see you later, everybody.
Likewise. Bye, everyone.